Hello and welcome to this episode of I Don't Know Jack About Parenting, where today I'm going to talk about an article I just read where a teacher wrote, WTF ? You get zero credit for this on top of a high school student's paper. So the big question is this: how are parents like us, who don't have a manual, who are doing the best we can, who feel as though we aren't enough, how are we going to raise healthy, happy children who we are proud of and still keep our sanity in that process? That's the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. My name is Ryan Roy, and welcome to I Don't Know Jack About Parenting, a podcast for parents who are being real with themselves. Hey, welcome back to this episode of I Don't Know Jack About Parenting, where today I want to talk about a little something I read in the news the other day about a high school teacher in Florida. She wrote, WTF ? You get zero credit for this, on a paper of one of her students for a science project, I believe. So what I find interesting about this article is it was the parent who saw this written on top of their student's paper and brought it to the school's attention. That's fine. But now wants this teacher to be reprimanded in some sort of way, which I can almost understand at some point. When I read the article, it had a picture of the top of the article, or the top of the page where this was written. My question is, what did the student do to deserve that type of reaction? I am not condoning that what this teacher did was right. But what I am talking about, I don't know jack about parenting, but I know a little something about playing victim. And I know a little something about pointing fingers at other people, that when we're not taking ownership of our actions, parents, we're teaching our children not to take ownership of their actions. And I'm trying to put myself in this parent's shoes. And I thought to myself, if one of my children, and I'll share with you in a moment what has happened at 7 years old, but if one of my children brought home a paper that the teacher felt so strongly enough to put some type of profanity on top of their paper, not only that, but gave them a zero for it, I'd have a bigger issue with my child than the teacher. See, here's the thing. It takes a village to raise children. And unfortunately, in my perspective, in my opinion, when this teacher wrote this, she's probably dealing with a high school teacher, probably has 5 classes she teaches a day. She probably has 25 to 30 students in those classes. So she's anywhere from 120 to 150 students that she's needing to grade papers, educate, and play her role in our children's lives. And she's underpaid and overworked. And some of you may say, oh, but she chose that profession. Well, guess what? She chose to empower your children in certain ways. And when your child is not showing up and she's frustrated, or he's frustrated, but I believe it was a woman, and something like that comes out, the last thing I think she needs to do is be reprimanded any other way than what she's already done, which she has apologized for her poor judgment in the moment. Because it probably took her less than 10 seconds to write what she wrote on that paper. But it took this student the entire class period to deserve a zero. That's a whole lot more thought going into doing nothing than what this woman wrote on this paper in a moment of weakness or frustration. So this parent wanting to take this to the next level, I don't know jack about parenting. But I do know that we need to teach our children some accountability. And when children are coming home to helicopter parents that need to go into the school and say, look what your teacher wrote on top of my student's paper. If I were the principal, and she's lucky I'm not the principal of the school, or maybe I'm lucky I'm not the principal because I'd probably get fired for this. I'd say, I don't agree with what she wrote, but I also don't agree with what your student, your child wrote or didn't write either. What kind of assignment is this? Why is your child doing nothing? Let's stop pointing the fingers at other people, society, and the news. It is ridiculous that the news picks up a story like that. That is asinine. That's a term my mom always used. It's asinine. That someone would think it's okay to write an article about this and it actually go national news. Really, a teacher writing WTF on a student's paper is national news, because we're living in a society where people want to blame people for other people's problems instead of just showing up and doing what they're supposed to do. So parents out there, don't be a helicopter parent and protect your child with every little thing that they feel, oh, look what they wrote on my paper, I'm hurt. Well, guess what? The world is going to throw a whole lot more at that. Because guess what? If you don't pay your bills, people are going to send you to collections. They're not going to write WTF on the bill that you didn't pay. We need to stop being more or less sensitive as a society and more accountable to our actions than pointing the finger. What are you going to do when your child didn't pay the bills? Are you going to go up to the bill company and say, well, you know what? He needs a second chance. He needs a third chance. Why would you send this bill in the mail and hold him accountable to paying it when you know that, he hasn't gotten a job yet? Well, go get a damn job. Because it's the same thing you're doing, parent, when you show up to the school and you say, why would you write this on my kid's paper when he didn't do nothing? Well, I wrote it because he didn't do anything. And stop protecting these children from the world, because you're not doing you or them any favors, and you certainly aren't doing the world any favors when you're sending your children out into this world expecting to get something for nothing, because he turned in something that had nothing and wanted something other than nothing back. And he got a 0. And he actually got a little WTF at the same time. Like, what's your deal? What's your challenge? What's your problem? You are better than this. I know it. And every once in a while, we got to throw an F-bomb out there, so that somebody pays attention. Because unfortunately, society thinks it's okay to make a WTF national news. This isn't an elementary school student. This is not a middle school student who is in that real weird transition period. This is a high school student who's known the F word, I guarantee, at home since he was 3. I could just tell. Yeah, I am laying it out there. That parent has dropped F-bombs in his or her house as long as the child can remember. You want to know why? Because she plays victim. And victims drop F-bombs. Non-victims drop F-bombs. Everybody uses the F word. Even good Christians. So it's not like the kid doesn't know what the F word is. Not like the kids never use the F word. It's not like the kids never put WFT on a text on his cell phone that he probably doesn't deserve because he doesn't do his work. But yet, it becomes national news because we're living in a world of lack of accountability. Now, you could hold the teacher accountable. She's already apologized. My question is, who's holding this kid accountable? Who's holding this parent accountable for making sure the kid's doing the work at home? Nobody. In society, I have to watch on the news that the most important thing today, or what came across my headline, was some kid didn't write his paper and a teacher responded in a inappropriate way. Again, I'm not condoning what she did. What I'm saying is it doesn't need to be national news. Number one, mom and dad, this is a podcast about parenting. Mom and dad, you do not need to show up to the school when your kid's not doing the work and blame it on the teacher. I don't care what the teacher said. You need your kid to have a little self-accountability and just show up for themselves. And you need to stop showing up for them. And guess what? If you don't show up and they don't show up, guess what? They fail at life. But this didn't begin in this classroom. This began somewhere way before this classroom. And it's probably been happening for a long time. And mommy and daddy come to the rescue of little Johnny when little Johnny's not doing his work. Stop rescuing your kids. Hold them accountable to do the work. So I said at the beginning that my son was writing some of that stuff on his own papers. It said, what's the answer and why do you know it? And at 7 years old, his response was, why do I know? Well, I just know. And when he came home with that, and it wasn't even marked wrong, I read his paper and I sat him down and I made him write it out and I made him send it back to his teachers. Because that's an unacceptable answer because I know. They're asking you why so they understand the way you think. If you don't understand the way you think, maybe we need to practice a little more. And if you don't understand it after that, maybe we need to practice a little more. Then guess what? He started figuring out how he thought. And if she knows how he thinks, whether it's right or wrong, she knows he's on the right track or not. If I know how he thinks, I can help him at home. But if he's just saying, well, because I know, and he's a little know-it-all, little know-it-alls don't live underneath my roof. Little know-it-alls don't write smart butt answers to the teacher at school. And I need to nip that in the butt at 7 years old, not wait till high school, so that I feel the need that, oh, his teacher's fault that he did. They let him get away with it in first and second and third grade. No, I let him get away with it if he's doing that in high school. Parents, the parent who wrote that, the parent who's complaining about the WTF has allowed her child to get away with it all these years. And now she's pointing to the system instead of her own lack of accountability and her own system at home that apparently is failing because she wants to go to the school and run and blame somebody else for her child's shortcomings. See, I don't know jack about parenting. I know that kids are getting away with way too much these days, and there's no accountability, and without accountability, there's no success. And when there's no success, people don't want to look themselves in the mirror. They want to point fingers elsewhere. We'll see you in the next episode. Do you want to be the dad you wish you had? If so, go get my free book, Be the Dad You Wish You Had, at BeTheDadYouWishYouHad.com. Inside, you'll find my most effective 40 tips to quickly and easily transform yourself into the ideal dad. Go to BeTheDadYouWishYouHad.com now and get it while it's free.